Up next, we're going to talk about the male rookies that are going to be at the CrossFit Games. Did that last week with the women, had an interview with Amy Kringle. This week, we're going to turn our attention to the men. Earlier today, Lauren Kalil spoke with Chris Ibarra, rookie out of the West semifinal, North America West semifinal. Talked to him about making his first appearance at the games, training with Jacob Heppner, what his plans are as he gets ready for his first appearance at the CrossFit Games in Fort Worth, Texas. So here is Lauren Kalil's interview with CrossFit Games rookie Chris Abara.
Let's welcome into the show Chris Ibarra. He finished 6th at the West Coast Classic, punching his ticket to the CrossFit Games for the first time. Chris, how are we feeling?
Feeling pretty good. Like I was saying, I'm sore from the last 2 weeks. I'm usually on my off season already, but yeah, it's something that I got to get used to, but I'm doing fine.
How different is the training you're doing right now compared to, the prep that you were doing leading up to semifinals?
It's still the same 2 sessions. The only thing different is just I got to add in some more swimming, more biking. I was already running, but it's just that's about it. The biking and swimming, just the weird obstacles, but that's about it.
Lately or recently, I saw a post. I think Olivia Kerstetter put it on her Instagram story of you out at Jacob Heppner's barn in the pouring rain with, I think, the yoke. Is that just to add difficulty, or you had to get that movement done for the day? Or tell me about that story.
Well, I got to the gym. It wasn't raining yet, and I had to do the yoke carry, and we had stuff set out for a wedding that Jacob had going on in there, and so there wasn't much I could do in the barn, so I had to just do it all outside. I had to do a bunch of stuff outside, and it started raining. I'm like, I have to do it. It's gonna bother me if I don't finish it, so I had to do it. That's Yeah, I didn't realize she recorded it until I saw the post too. So
You can never trust anybody with a phone close by. You'll end up somewhere on Instagram
yeah,
or Snapchat. How long have you been training at Jacob Heppner's barn?
I've been with him for about 7 months. I moved here January 1st, so about 7 months. But it's been good. It's been a little bit of a change for me with how much I do. Like I wasn't used to doing long sessions. Usually I was breaking it up because of work, but now that I got a better job, I'm able to do longer sessions with them. The first week here, I worked out with Jacob and I ended up cramping on both of my calves. And I thought, like, oh, this dude thinks I'm a weenie right now. But yeah, it was a little embarrassing, but it's been good. It's been really good.
How many times did Jacob make fun of you after that?
uh he he's pretty good at making fun of me. We go back and
Yeah, he
forth, but
likes to
he's
play.
pretty good at it. He makes it
What do you
fun for us.
what do you do for work full time other than obviously competing and training?
I work at a gym. I work at
Okay.
a global gym. I was doing landscaping the last 2 years. It was good money, but it was just a toll on the body. I tried to train after work, and it was so hard, so hard.
And now it's hard in a different way training with Jacob and Olivia, I imagine.
Yeah, yeah, mentally and physically. But it's fun. It really is. He does a good job of making it fun, so it's really fun.
So then going back to January when you decided to move out there, was that in the equation that those were the things you needed to do in order to qualify for the games, or what kind of went into that decision-making process?
Uh, he was really good friends with Jason Ansley, which was my coach at the time, and Jason. I mean, he did all he could with me, and he knew I needed to move on and get. If I wanted to get to the next level, I needed somebody like Jacob. So that was really what I mean, I moved here and was told myself I have no more excuses. This is what I needed. And I mean, it worked. So I was really happy about that. But yeah, that's about it. I would say it was a good decision to move up
And
here.
I'm yeah, I think so too,
Yeah.
especially qualifying for the games, but even just looking at your performances at semifinals, you had almost all of your finishes other than one inside the top 10. Your best finish was event 1, the run and the clean and jerks with a third. When you looked at the programming, did you think you would be able to be so consistent, especially with the competitors in the lanes next to you?
Uh, Honestly, I wasn't feeling like that until I got done with my second workout. Then I was like, oh, I think I can get top 10 in all these. And being top 10 in the first workout, because me and Pat were in the first heat, was a little surprising to me, just because everybody saw us do, I mean, obviously saw what they needed to do to beat
Mhm.
us. But that was a little shocking on the first one, but I would say they were pretty good workouts for me. I mean, there was a couple that I was a little nervous about, but I feel like that's normal. You're going to be nervous about most of the workouts, but I mean, I wasn't too worried about them, but then I actually was. I don't know. We could go back and forth, but
How did this semifinal experience compare to the previous year you were at semis?
uh the first year was a little shocking just because I wasn't used to working out with these high caliber athletes.
Mhm.
Uh, I started watching CrossFit at like 2019, so I wasn't like, oh, those are like the big names. I'm working out with them. I'm not used to that. And sometimes I was like, oh, I'm keeping up with them. I'm shocked. I was just shocked the whole time. But I honestly was just trying to survive the workouts the first year instead of like trying to get top 10 finishes. I was just trying to complete the workouts. That was my goal. Getting experience was it. This year, I mean, the goal was to get top 10 in all the workouts, and I missed it by one spot. But yeah,
What so you say you started watching the CrossFit Games in 2019. Um, what were you doing before you started CrossFit? Because even on your games profile, it shows that your first open wasn't until 2021.
yeah, yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, I was playing football. So I was in high school. I graduated in 2019 from high school. I went to school for football, and I went to a small JUCO in Oklahoma, and I ended up playing. I didn't even finish the season. I was like enjoying working out more than I like being on the football field. And I
Mhm.
was like, I am in the wrong sport. I need to just go to school. Let's do CrossFit. And I got a hold of Jason after COVID hit. And from there, I moved on with CrossFit. So that's where it started, was 2020 after COVID. But yeah, it's been that'd be 4 years of competitive CrossFit.
Well, and it's interesting because like 7 to 10 years ago, that was very common, but now it's getting way less common to see people start CrossFit only, 3, 4 years ago and then be able to punch their ticket to the CrossFit Games. Of course, you have that football background, athletic
Yeah.
background, which helps, but it's so fascinating to me. Um, Being kind of newish still to CrossFit, what is your favorite movement and what is your least favorite movement?
Uh, I would say my least favorite movement would be the double under crossover.
Yeah, I hate
I've
those
been
too.
pounding those for like the last couple of weeks, and my back is just tore up. It was bleeding the other day, actually.
Oh,
But
oh my god.
I'm able to do them, but it's probably my least favorite movement. And I would say my favorite movement in a workout would probably be the thruster, just because I'm so good at them.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay, I also love thrusters, and anytime I tell somebody that, they're like, "Oh, you're crazy." Do you also like wall balls? Because to me, they do not feel the same, even though it's
No.
like same movement pattern.
Yeah, I'm pretty slow at wall balls. They can definitely be faster, but whenever I'm doing it right next to Olivia, they're
Yeah.
way slower. I'm just like, I was like, okay, I don't like this movement.
Have you been doing a lot of games training with her?
Yes, I'm kind of forcing her to do some training with me because if I
Nice.
wouldn't have made it, she would have forced me to do some of her training, and that's what I told her. So she's doing a little bit with me.
That's fair, that's fair. You guys have such a fun relationship, though. I think I saw her wearing your semifinals jersey, and then on your games profile, you have, like, the banner is the picture of her failing the up and over the logs, like,
Yeah. Yeah,
are you 2, like, best friends, like, brother-sister relationship? What's that like?
I would say we're a lot closer. I would consider her a best friend. I would consider her a best friend for sure. Yeah, I can't even post anything without her saying some smart comment on anything. But I started doing it back to her. I was like, "All right, you want to start this? I'll start doing this."
Oh, I love it. And kinda speaking to your games training, a little birdie, Jason Ansley, told me that you're also competing or throwing down at Monster Games, which is in, like, 2 weeks. Are you gonna do all the workouts? Are you doing the division? I need the details.
No, I'm not doing every workout. I will probably do a couple team ones with Olivia. I won't, yeah, I'm not doing every workout. I know Jacob did that last year, and I'm not doing that. I think
You
Olivia
can't
is
be
jumping
persuaded.
in. Yeah, Olivia will jump in a lot more than I will, but I
Yeah.
think I'll probably do a couple team ones with her, but not very many.
Probably a wise choice on the heels of your rookie experience at the
Yeah.
games.
No, yeah.
What are some of those things that, as you have watched as a fan, you really enjoy about the CrossFit Games that you're excited to take on yourself?
Honestly, just having fans being there will be a lot better for me than working out by myself. Because growing, like when I first started doing CrossFit, I was always in my garage working out alone. And if I can do it alone, I can do it even better when people are watching me. So that's really what I'm looking forward to is the fans. That's going to be really fun for me. Uh, I I guess I'm gonna be really sore throughout the week, so that the being having the fans there is definitely gonna help me a lot. But yeah, I would say that.
Have you really ramped up the volume to, like, prepare your body and muscles for, I mean, at the games we see anywhere between, like, 12 and 15 events.
Uh, I would say it's still the same for semifinals. I mean, I'm still doing, like I said, 2 sessions, but like in those 2 sessions, I'm doing like maybe 2 or 3 workouts. If you consider some lifting would be a workout, like I mean, I'm still treating it the same, but I also don't want to overtrain too. I know a lot of people.
Sure.
I've heard Brant Fikowski talk about that the other day. Like you don't want to overtrain them. Most people will overtrain that make the games overtrain right after semifinals because they think they should be ramping up. But
Mhm.
I'm just gonna keep it the same. See how it goes the first year. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a good opportunity to collect data, and similar to your first semifinal experience, everything is going to be new. But one of the things that's new for everybody is the venue. So there's a little bit of an unknown that I think for rookies this year has an extra advantage along the rest of the field. Do you feel that way? Have you thought about that at all?
Oh yeah, I definitely thought about that. Whenever I first saw where the venue was getting moved to, I was like, "Oh, this is the year for me to feel even more comfortable with the other people, because nobody's going to feel comfortable because everything's new to everyone. So I was like, this has to be the year. This has to be the year for me to only feel like that, because I mean, it's going to take 1 year and everybody's going to like figure out things.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely did think about that. That makes me really happy that it moved, because everyone's new to it.
Going back to you don't want to overtrain. What are some of those things outside of CrossFit that you like to do, whether it's a hobby, whether it's something playing video games? I don't know. Is there something that you enjoy doing that takes your mind off of CrossFit and fitness?
I was playing video games for a while, uh, before semifinals, and then I said, I make the games, I got to cut that out. I cut it out, so I haven't been playing any video games.
Why did
There's
you cut
not
it out? Did it keep you up too late?
No, it's just if I could be stretching, I could be doing something productive. So it's just that's a mental thing for me. I'm not
Okay.
being productive. I don't really do much besides CrossFit, eat, work. There's not much for me to do. Hang out with Olivia, uh, hang out with my girlfriend. I mean, there's not much I do. So
Okay. I think I saw that you've picked up shooting a little bit with Jacob.
he'll bring me out there sometimes and have me and Olivia shoot. Uh Usually it's him making fun of us. But
Sounds on brand.
he definitely shot us how to shoot a bow. He gives us tips on shooting guns, but it's good to know. But yeah, it's half of the time it's him making fun of us, and it's hard not to make fun of us. I don't know if you saw the monster post that they
Oh, I
shared of us
saw.
shooting the gun, and Olivia's feet are super far apart. I was like, no wonder he makes fun of us.
You don't actually know what you look like until you see the video and you're like, Where did I come up with that
Yeah,
positioning?"
she's like, my back hurts. I was like, just wait until you see the video.
I love it. I love it. When you think about the CrossFit Games and there's so many odd objects, new movements, um, whether it's biking, rucking, swimming, just all of these components that you don't see in any of the earlier stages. If you could build your own random CrossFit Games workout with some of those odd movements, what would they be? What would it look like?
uh it would have swimming in it.
Okay.
I've never done an open swim. I would love to do an open swim.
You
Uh,
prefer like in a lake versus a pool?
I think so. I think so. I would do an open swim, a mass start everyone. I've always wanted. I thought that was the coolest thing they did in the ocean. But I would do that. Uh, I really enjoyed. I think it was a mile. I think it was a mile run, swim, and then another. I think it was another mile run. I'm not for sure, but I really enjoyed that. So I would say something
Mhm.
with running, swimming, and then running again, probably, or vice versa: swimming, run, swim. But yeah, I'm really excited for the swim, because I mean, I've Monsters always had swimming, Desert Cities always had swimming. Those are the competitions I like to do. It's full, well-rounded workouts that they do. It's because they always have swimming, they always have running, and I feel like that's the closest thing to the games, and that's why I enjoy doing those competitions. But I would say a run, swim, run, or swim, run, swim.
And you bring up Monster and Desert because those are 2 competitions that I first learned about your name, and I think it's so interesting because, there are other semifinal athletes that go to those competitions, but typically when it comes to qualifying for the games, you see somebody do the online qualifiers for Rogue and qualify or Dubai and qualify. Why or like what goes into the decision making process when you decide which off-season competitions you want to do? Is it that well-rounded piece getting some of those other elements in your training?
Oh yes, for sure. I like to do competitions that are well rounded. I don't. I mean, I don't mind doing competitions that are just like just in the gym. I mean, yeah, it's fine, but my goal was to make the CrossFit Games, and I wanted to do workouts that I would see at the CrossFit Games. And they both of those had swimming and they had running, and I just wanted to see what I could do at this stage before I did go on to the big stage. So that was the real reason why I liked doing those competitions. Not because I wanted to pick on some people and win them by a lot, because there was good competition at them.
Yeah.
Uh, One of them was CJ Gerald. He was from
Mhm.
Underdog, and I mean, he beat me last year. So I mean, there's good competition. So that was why I did those competitions.
Yeah. And both of those competitions are very well run, great programming, and people who put on those events. Looking at your rookie year at the games, what is your benchmark for success? How can you leave the games knowing that you feel proud of what you did?
I would say top 20 would be my goal. Anything beyond that I would probably wouldn't feel too happy about it. But I would say top 20. Top 20 would probably. And then if I was to get rookie of the year, I would rub it in Olivia's face and be even more excited about it. But
Oh, that's amazing. Is there anything outside of those two things that you look at to determine your success? Like, um, whether it's based on effort, whether it's based on if there's some kind of like lift hitting within like 95% or things like that?
I can't really say that because I don't know what the workouts are. It's hard to say, but I will definitely there will always be a workout that I'm like, hey, if I complete this one, I'll be pretty happy about it.
Mm.
Or like if I hit this lift, I'll be pretty happy about it. But I would say, yeah, there's gonna be a lot of those workouts that I'm like that. But yeah, I would say there would be a couple.
Okay, we'll have to wait until we see the programming.
Yeah.
What is on your schedule other than the couple things we talked about going to Monster and obviously games training from now until gosh, what are we? We're less than 2 months away from the games, about a month and a half.
Yeah, I will be in Vermont from the 15th through the 24th next month, training with the Hard Work Pays Off group. So I will be there before my deload week, and then I'll come home, hang out, and then off to Fort Worth. But
So does HWPO write your programming now?
yes, so I've been with HWPO for 2 years now,
Do you
and
do you
what
follow
was
their pro track or what
I
do
was
you follow?
following their pro track, and they realized like, oh wow, we we need to give this guy his own programming.
He's too
But
good for the pro track. He needs elite.
yeah, they got hold of me, and they're writing my own programming now. So I'm working with Stephen Fawcett.
Oh yeah,
So
he's great.
yeah, yeah. So I'm with him, and I'm
Awesome.
also getting coached on the side by Stephen Tackett, and he's helping me out a little bit too. So it's a little mix of both.
It takes a village, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Chris, it was so great to catch up with you. Congratulations on qualifying for the CrossFit Games, and I can't wait to see you in Texas.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Big thanks to Chris Ibarra for taking the time to do that, and wish him the best of luck in Fort Worth. And as we have talked before, Tommy, we are sort of out of the era where rookies show up at the games and all of a sudden finish inside the top 5. It just it does not happen a lot. And last week we sort of used, I think, if you're inside the top 15 for the women, that's a win. I think in your first, that's a big win in your first year. There are of course some outliers, but I don't think That's going to change for the men this year. I don't think like there's going to be anybody. I could be wrong. I hope I am, because that makes it a lot more exciting. But I don't think there's anybody here, maybe a couple, who might make a surprise run, let's say into the top 8.
Yeah. I would say if you're a betting man,
Mhm.
that would be, if it was like, they gave you the 50-50 choice, like, will rookie be in the top 8? Yes or no? No would be a heavy favorite. It'd
Yes.
be like a -500, -600 favorite.
What does that mean, -500?
It means,
For us
so it's
non-degenerates.
all based around like a $100 earning bet is the easiest way to put it. So if it's -500, you would need to bet $500 to
Make one.
win 100. Yep.
Got it. Okay.
It'd be a 5-to-1 odd, or I guess a 5-to-1 odds against you.
Mhm.
So,
Gamble responsibly, kids.
yes. If you have a problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Yes. Public service announcement. Okay. Well, last week we had tiers. I had 3 tiers, and I, ranking is fun, but sometimes these guys are so equal. It's like, well, why don't we just put them into tiers?
Yeah.
3 that we have is here to have fun, and that's people who are probably going to show up, finish towards the bottom, enjoy their free gear, get some good experience, and then that's going to be probably the extent of their competition weekend. The next is here to make an impression. Now, these are our athletes who you're going to watch, and you're going to say, okay, this could be someone who is a perennial games athlete in the years to come, catches your eye. And then the final ranking tier is here to make noise. And these are the athletes who have a chance 15th or better. And I'm just going to draw that line because that just makes the most sense in my head. But who have a real opportunity to show that they have what it takes to compete at the highest level, and where you can see they have not reached their ceiling yet.
Yeah, it's I like these because I think it's a better way of kind of categorizing the rookies because of the volatility of the sport, right? Like, especially with so many unknown variables, like programming, like how the layout and the way this new venue is going to work, right? Like,
Right.
I would say it would be it'd be a little bit easier to push towards more specific categories if we knew it was going to be in Madison again, because there's reasonable expectations based off of historical data we have from what has taken place there. So it's do you want to start with just here to have fun?
Yeah, and I think, look, you kind of got to go towards. I used Barkley Dale's, friend of the show, his sort of I don't know what you would call it, your worldwide semifinals ranking, where he takes all the scores and puts them in order from 1 to 40. And there are a couple guys here just at the bottom. Ruan Potgeider, I really hope I'm saying that name correctly, from Africa. Ivan Kukurtsev from Asia.
Peter Ellis.
Yeah, Peter Ellis. They're all, 37, 38, 39th, right in there. There's very rarely do we see an athlete. Roman Krennikov is obviously the big exception here, from Asia or Africa, show up at the games and be someone who you're talking about, who's in like that third heat.
Especially when the comparable data points otherwise, right? Like, and that's even the case sometimes for the last qualifier in for someone like Oceania, which was formerly the Pacific, formerly Australia, kind of scenario, and even South America too. And now this, it's important to note that cross comparison tosses out that first event, right? Because the run cadences and and the obstacles for running were significantly different. So it's not really an apples to apples comparison, and it kind of skews things a little bit, which I think is also important because that was the one super long event, and you're going to get something in that longer time domain at the games for sure.
Yeah.
But I think those are safe. Hey, we're here to have fun, and usually there is kind of like a rotating door of new people making it from those regions, because there's only a couple spots, because there's high turnover, and because in a situation where you have 5 to 6 events that are qualifying you for the games, you really and there's only a handful of athletes that are really seriously in contention. You can't have holes show up at that qualifying level. A
Yeah.
single like really bad event can bury you.
Hmm.
So
What about, so Harry Lightfoot is kind of the next guy on our list. We're going from kind of just the list that we have. Would you put him in this category? Would you bump him up to the next one here to make an impression? Just where he qualified out of and how good that the Europe region is.
I think I would automatically I would almost automatically put anyone from the Europe region at this point in time in at a minimum here to make an impression.
Okay.
You look at Harry, you look at Callum Clements, and I think that the depth of the field there and what it takes to be able to come back and qualify from a region that really deserves a second qualifying event.
Yeah.
I think that puts you in that. Harry's only 25. So I think there's also runway for him.
Mhm.
And he's already shown that he can compete at a high level in the online format with like the more inside the box stuff. So I'd be willing to put him more towards like ready here to make an impression.
Okay.
Hopefully it's someone that can kind of build on that because he's continued to improve in the other areas outside of just that online programming as well.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Europe absolutely deserves another qualifying event. And given the fact that he was 8th there,
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I think he deserves to be in that here to make noise or
Mhm.
here to make an impression. What about, so let's talk about Chris Abara because we just heard from him.
Yep.
I think I'd put him in here as well.
Yeah.
He was, where was he he was 28th worldwide.
Mm-hmm.
So a chance.
Yeah, and I think there was some. He was like I want to say up until the final event, maybe at the West. I mean, he was pretty solidly in there the
Yeah,
entire.
he was. They talked that he was someone who was talked about all weekend being in a qualifying position, not someone who all of a sudden leapfrogged a bunch of people in the final event, if I remember correctly.
Yep. And his data is skewed a little bit because I think he was one of the recipients of some penalties. I could be conflating him with someone else, but like he has, some pretty impressive performances on the worldwide stage and numbers wise from the Open and quarterfinals and things like that. So, having someone like one that team from HWPO, but also like Hepner in your corner, I think also kind of gives you a little bit of a boost there of someone to help kind of guide you along and getting to moving over that direction and also getting to train with someone like Olivia as well.
Yeah.
Certainly helps, but I think for the most part, there's a big chunk of here to make an impression.
I do too.
It's a lot of these guys.
Agreed. And I think Austin Hatfield would probably be in that crew as well. Though that guy, I don't know if you follow him on social media. Like he's been posting some pretty burly lifts.
Yeah,
with the barbell.
absolutely. And he's
I feel
24
like,
years old.
yeah, he's kind of like the I don't know. I don't want to say poor man's, but because he's very, and I don't know if knockoff is the right term either. But I look at him and Colton Mertens in about kind of the same light.
Oh, in terms of like
undersized, powerful guys.
Yeah.
Can win an event if it's in their wheelhouse, like Austin did. I think it was the event 2 at the semifinals, the front squat, toes to bar.
Yeah.
He smashed that. He beat Krennikov and Adler in that one. So he's a guy who I think I'd put in this category, but maybe with a toe on the line of the here to make some noise.
Yeah, I would also put Annual Kai in. He's like a guy that I think can bridge too, because it really kind of depends on how he manages the stress and mental roller coaster of the weekend. He's like extremely talented, has a ton of high level competition experience across like internationally, and there are people almost like this is kind of a rough analogy, but we would talk about Lindsay Valenzuela, like how she like managed the emotional roller coaster of the weekend would kind of give you an indication of how that week was going to go as a whole. when she could like harness it a little bit and use it to her benefit, because she was a very fiery competitor, and she could, have a couple of good results and maybe like use that to motivate her. The ceiling was the podium, as it was in 2013, and multiple top 10 finishes at the games. But there was also times where, like, hey, if it didn't go her way and it started to snowball a little bit, she missed qualifying one year, the year after she finished on the podium. So you know I think that could be a similar scenario for Agnon, but just because he's someone that we've talked about potentially qualifying for the last couple of years, because he's had some really good, strong performances outside of just regionals, and just how does he manage the hidden stressors of the games weekend?
Yeah. So the next guy I want to talk about here is Bruno Marins, and he's intriguing to me because his ranking in the worldwide comparison here, he's 12th.
Yeah.
But he's coming out of South America. And with the exception of Guimaeros, like, not many athletes have come out of that region and made a ton of noise at the games. But given the fact that he was 12th, what do you make of that? Do we bump him up into the here to make noise, or is he still in the, I would say, impression, just because of the lack of experience?
Yeah, it's tough. There's a couple things that go into this, right? Like, what was the schedule? South America was the last weekend to go.
Yep.
You had we do see times benefit and people and get the feedback from performance over weeks to be able to kind of practice and fine tune this. You won't get that at the games, right? That's why people like Pat Vellner and Brent Fikowski excel year over year, despite maybe getting beat by some people at the qualifying level, is because suddenly when you have to formulate a plan and execute without the practice and the safety of your gym, like, that's where experience pays dividends. And I look at what it has taken to crack that top 15 at the games. You look at someone like Nick Matthew, wasn't necessarily a pick to probably do that, to be the rookie of the year that year, but he won multiple events, right? There were aspects of his skill set that maybe didn't show up in qualifying that allowed him to do that. I mean, you even go back to someone like Guy, like when he had his best year was in that, it wasn't his rookie year because he had made it before, but what was really like his live debut at the games in 2021, it was highlighted by multiple event wins, right? And high power output, and high like power threshold events. Do I see that from Bruno? I don't know if anything necessarily pops off to me like he's going to win multiple events at the games, or maybe rack up 3-ish top 4, top 5, top 3 finishes at the games as well. Like, the eye test leads me to say no. And he still finished he still finished third at his semifinal, right? So even in some of that classic CrossFit stuff over time and with the full breadth of tests, I think that might even out a little bit differently for him. Yeah. That's like the way I can put it in the most positive light.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Well, that leaves us with Victor Hoffer and Jack Rosema. And Rosema is 17th in the worldwide rankings out of semifinals. But for whatever reason, and this just may be the fact that I just like his background, I've talked to him before, and I think the guy is just, mentally as tough as they come. I think he has a chance to make some noise. He has been knocking on the door for 4 years and finally made it this year. He's a former wrestler, former JAG in the Army. Like, I don't know why. I just have a feeling about him.
There's a grit. There's an element of grit that seems to stand out with him. It's like that like it's the undersized linebacker on your team that just seems to always find his way to the bottom of the pile. Is the best sport
like Sam Mills. Remember Sam Mills? How small that guy was, but he was so good.
Yep. It's like, it's hard to quantify why this guy is able to play above his size and speed
Mhm.
and the things that get listed on your player profile, but they do, right? And I think in the other flip side of that is like, it's very clear Victor has the potential to win events at the games.
And that's why I put him in there, because anybody you talk to says that. And we talked to Matt O'Keefe, I think it was on Death By. He was saying like how much pressure was on Victor being on his home turf, and got off to a slow start, but you saw the home run potential there. And that's why I think he absolutely should be in the Here to Make Some Noise, because there is a chance that kid wins in maybe multiple events, given his skill set. I just think Jack is scrappy, and I think he's going to find a way to make people like, oh, hey, this guy's pretty legit.
Yeah. there are it's almost like I to draw another comparison, there are like certain types of fighters, like in UFC, right?
Mhm.
There are the Israel Adesanyas, the oh my god, what's his name that was before, the tall Brazilian, Anderson Silva,
Mhm.
that were just surgical with the things that they did. They were the best strikers. Their movement, their everything like that. And at any one point, like one mistake and one opening, you could even argue Conor McGregor in his prime with his hands could put you out and down with a well-timed shot. I think Sugar Sean O'Malley is like that now, for all my UFC fans out there. And that's a different way of beating someone than just dragging someone to the deep end and just slowly drowning you, like the wrestlers of the world. Oh my god, what was his name? Matt. He used to fight GSP all the time. My brain is not working. I've been up too early this morning.
I get used to it.
Or even the Dan Hendersons of the world, the ground and pounds, the smother, I would say Khabib was like that. He was arguably the greatest UFC fighter of all time, retired undefeated. He would just sap you of your energy and slowly wear you down until he just had his way with you.
Mhm.
And that's like the difference that I feel like these two athletes are. And
But
then both are effective strategies.
Yeah, and I think with Rosenberg, with his wrestling background, I mean, think about the athletes that we have seen with a wrestling background in CrossFit Games history. There's a couple jump to the front of my mind: Chris Spieler,
Mhm.
Josh Bridges, Justin Medeiros,
Yep.
champion, Bill Grundler,
Chandler Smith.
Like they all. I would love it, like when I would be playing hockey and I found out like on beer league and like a guy I was playing with was a former wrestler, because I'm like, you're not going to quit. Like you're not, like you have a motor on you. And they just, I don't know. I had my JV football coach in high school, who, God rest his soul, who was also the wrestling coach, used to always say to us, guys, wrestling's the toughest sport because God made it first. I was like, I don't know what that means, but it sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
He had a lot for us.
It's like those old adages your coach used to
Yeah.
give you. Like in retrospect, like 20 years later, you're like,
What
does it even mean? It's like no one knows what it means, but it's
Yeah.
provocative.
Awesome.
Gets the people going.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's yeah. Oh man, yeah. A lot of those things aren't repeatable
No,
nowadays,
they
but
are not.
yeah. In like the same vein, like anytime I do jujitsu, and anytime you're like, oh, someone has a wrestling background and they have a white belt on, you're like,
Son of a bitch.
oh, damn it.
Yep.
Oh, this is gonna hurt. But
Yep. This guy will not show me any mercy and will not stop. Because as I've always told wrestlers, like I grew up playing sports, like interval sports, like football, you got to rest. Hockey, you got to rest. You went hard, you got to rest. Wrestling, you take a rest, you're on your back and you lose. Like that's it.
Yeah.
It's you take a break in the action, or you're not giving 100% all the time, you're done. And that's why I think that those guys translate so well to CrossFit. But I think that it's going to be an exciting rookie class to watch. There are certainly some guys, as we mentioned, who can make some noise and can certainly make things interesting. But I don't see anybody who's pushing for that surprise spot inside the top 5.
I will say,
I don't know, maybe the top 10 possibly, but I just don't know as deep as this men's field is.
yeah, it doesn't feel like we have quite the same force of nature type rookie on the men's
Right.
side. Like even last year with Yella breaking the top 10, he won multiple events in very
Exactly.
spectacular fashion.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
All
but
right.
that's the best part, right? Like when it all
Yeah.
gets to the games, sometimes people surprise you. You're like, "Oh, I didn't realize you had that dog in you."
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Exactly. So TBD on that, but trying to set the stage for what we're going to see. And yeah, a lot of intriguing storylines.